Alright everyone, welcome back. So we continue on our 2024 deadline previews with the Carolina Hurricanes today. So the Hurricanes, once again, a team that looks like they will be buying in at the trade deadline, which shouldn't surprise anyone. They're trying to get over that hump of the Eastern Conference Finals. So let's just get straight into it here. So discluding the Minnesota game from Tuesday, February 27th, they are currently 34, 18, and 6 for 74 points. They are second overall in the Metropolitan Division. So regardless whether they win or lose, it doesn't change where they are in the standings. So just thought I'd say that. I'm recording this during that game, so then that way I can get it uploaded the next day. Just so you guys know, I did change the cap space. I had the cap space for a lot of the videos as projected. I changed it to the current cap space. So now the Hurricanes have $5.3 million in current cap space. So they have some moves to make here at this trade deadline, and they have plenty of options that they could go out for sure. However, once again, this year is another year where free agency is going to be a big thing for this team. They have a lot of players expiring. A lot of these guys, it's going to be, they're going to walk. Some of them, it's going to be, well, what are their contracts going to look like? And some of them will be interesting to see heading into the offseason. Not even the deadline, the offseason with Carolina. So your UFAs goes as follows. You got Teuvo Teravainen, Jordan Martinook, Brendan Lemieux, Stefan Noasen, Brady Shea, Brett Pesce, Tony DeAngelo, Jalen Chatfield, Antti Ranta, and Spencer Martin. So let's go through each name there. Teravainen has been a great player this season for the Hurricanes, as he's been in previous years. They will try their best to keep him around. I would imagine that's not a problem. Jordan Martinook is getting older, and he's not the player that we saw last year. Last year wasn't a fluke necessarily, but Martinook definitely overperformed. So definitely, I feel like he probably will stay with the Hurricanes, but obviously there's that chance that, he could walk in free agency if they can't work anything out. Brendan Lemieux, I think, leaves. I think that Lemieux was an experiment, a depth option that kind of failed for them. He hasn't played a whole lot. He's been in and out of the lineup more or less. And when he's been in the lineup, he hasn't been the greatest player. So I think he leaves. Noasen's been pretty solid. In the games that Noasen's played, which is basically the whole season so far, he's looked pretty good for a fourth liner, not on a whole lot of money. So he may get not a significant pay raise, but maybe a bigger pay raise than he did this last offseason. So definitely a guy that I think will stay in Carolina. There have been talks of Brady Shea and Brett Pesce being traded. I have not seen a whole lot of that in the trade front as of recent. I know that was a rumor in the offseason and at the beginning of the season. Haven't seen that a whole lot recently. I think if we were going to hear something about them getting traded, we would have heard it by now. But I think both of those players are too valuable to Carolina for them to give up. So I think Shea and Pesce both stay with the Hurricanes. Then you got Tony DeAngelo. I think DeAngelo gets moved at the deadline. That's a very big possibility. He's the guy that, well, if you're making lists for one player that could be traded, DeAngelo's the name that you think of. Chatfield, a depth option there. They wouldn't mind keeping him around, I guess, as a solid, defensive option, a good defensive depth. Ranta, I think, moves. I think he might retire, to be honest. This year's been a really rough year for him, being down in the American Hockey League and such. It's been rough for him. And then Spencer Martin was picked up off of waivers. I mean, I guess they could keep him around. They have a lot of goalie options to think of this offseason, so definitely that's something to think of there. But yeah, that's your UFA list. So some pretty decent names in there, but the RFA list is kind of your future. You got Marty Necas, Jack Drury, and Seth Jarvis as all of your names there. So Necas hasn't been the player that we saw last season, but will be a player still that this year will get a decent pay raise. Because I remember in the offseason where they had to go to arbitration with Necas, and he ended up signing that contract, the year following he did really well. So I'm expecting for Necas to get the pay raise that he definitely deserved with the Hurricanes. It's definitely well-deserved. A very good player for them. Drury hasn't, I wouldn't say he hasn't been the center that they expected, but he's been a little bit underwhelming. I've seen him in trade rumors. If push comes to shove and the Canes get the right offer, I think Drury will get moved if Drury's involved. Like, let's say they make a trade for Jose Saros. Not saying that will happen, but if they make a trade for someone like him and Drury's involved in the deal, then yeah, they probably pull the trigger. I would imagine that's what happens, but I don't think they're all too eager to give up Drury whatsoever. And then Seth Jarvis has been a great player this year. He improves every single season, has been a very effective player for this team, is becoming a part of that core, so is a guy that I think will definitely stay around. It's just a matter of, well, how much money is he going to get? So, yeah, I think all of those guys except maybe Drury are all going to stay on the RFA front, and we'll talk about them in the offseason more when we get to that, which is probably going to be in May for the Hurricanes, so we'll find out there, but obviously. What are your needs? Well, you want depth. I think you want a top 6 scoring winger. That's something that the Hurricanes have looked at. And as well as that, too, maybe a goalie. I know the Hurricanes have said they aren't in the goalie market because they have so many goalies as it is. Kuchekov, Anderson, Ronta, and Spencer Martin now. So they have pretty much a goalie rectangle or square, however you want to do it. But yeah, they have a lot of goalies right now. So if you're going to trade for a goalie, you're probably going to need to move a goalie out. So that's the least likely of them. Depth is something I could see with the Hurricanes. But as well as that, too, maybe a top 6 winger, just to bolster the offense a little bit more. There's some options out there of guys that could get moved, so we'll obviously see if that happens, but, that's something to think about. Movable pieces for the Hurricanes, you got your 2024 first-round pick, you got Tony DeAngelo, you got Antti Ranta, maybe if you wanted to just move him off for cap, and then you got Drury, and Ryan Suzuki is a name that I mentioned there too, as a guy that I think could get down. I've seen him interested in Vladimir Tarasenko. I did a mock trade on my Instagram where I showed Tarasenko going to the Hurricanes for Drury and a first-round pick. That is something we could see, or not Drury, Suzuki in a first-round pick. That is something that we could see. But yeah, that is my deadline preview for the Hurricanes, more or less. I think this team is looking to get over the hump with some top 6 forwards and maybe some depth. That's something that definitely a lot of teams need, but the Hurricanes, I think, are going to be in a good spot heading into the playoffs once again. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, and please subscribe down below. I would greatly appreciate it. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.